Do you want to learn how to work with wire? Today I'm going to cover the basics of wire hardness, starting with the soft and going all the way to the hard. Hey guys, Susan Thomas here, and today I want to talk to you about wire. One of the questions I get the most about working with wire is about the temper, and I'm not talking about it being angry or happy or sad. Basically, the temper is the hardness of the wire, and it's a big deal when you're working with wire because you need different tempers or hardnesses of wire to do different types of projects. So today I want to cover the ones that are the most useful in jewelry making and teach you guys when you need a soft wire and when you need a medium wire and when you might need a hard wire. So here are some tools you're probably going to want to have on hand to work with wire. I'm just going to have what I call the big three. In the tools, I'm going to have a round nose plier for making your loops and coils with the wire. I'm also going to have a chain nose plier. I'll show you guys these up close and personal. The chain nose plier is going to be very similar to the round nose, but the round nose is round all the way around, so you can make those loops. Chain nose is actually flat and smooth on the inside, so you're going to be able to open and close and squish down little pieces of wire. And then you're also going to need a good flush cutter. So I've got a really nice flush cutter here that's going to cut the ends of your wire flat and flush. So we'll have those three. I might pick up some others and talk to you about others, but if you've got these three, you can work with wire. I also have some different gauges of wire here. If you're not familiar with wire gauges, essentially, the gauge of the wire is the diameter of the wire, and the higher the number on the gauge, the thinner the wire. I know it's very confusing, but we're not going to go deeply into that today because we're talking about hard and soft. But essentially, if you hear me say 24, 26, 28, I'm talking about a very thin wire. And if you hear me say 10, 12, or 14, I'm talking about a heavier or thicker wire. I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys a really quick demonstration. It's my favorite way to show people the difference between a hard and a soft wire. And it kind of brings it down to just something very, very simple, which is whether or not these bangles will hold up over time. So I made these two bangles out of two different tempers of wire. This one is made out of a dead soft or soft wire. This one is made out of a medium or half hard temper wire. Now, because this is an open shape and I'm gonna have to put it over my hand and wrist, it's gonna need to hold that shape pretty well because it's gonna get a lot of wear and tear. So if I made it with soft wire, you would think, that might not work as well. If I made it with a harder wire, it probably would. So this one's done with soft, this one's done with medium or half hard. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna show you that when I press down on the sides of both of these, this one that's made out of the harder temper wire is gonna hold its shape, while this one is actually going to get squished or ruined. So I'll just hold them both like this and show you guys. I'll put the pressure on the wires and you can see the one wire that was done with the soft is losing its shape a lot faster. This one kind of springs back a little bit. That is a dead soft wire. This is a medium or half hard wire. Not as confusing anymore, is it? Clearly, if I want something to hold its shape, I'm gonna need a harder temper wire. So let's get down to the basics. First of all, wires come in soft, medium, and hard tempers. Sometimes soft is called dead soft, sometimes medium is called half hard, and sometimes hard is called full hard. Starts getting confusing, but if you think about it just soft, medium, hard, it kind of takes all of the guesswork out of it. If you hear half hard, it's medium. If you hear dead soft, it's soft. If you hear full hard, it's hard. Now, the thing that people always wonder is, when do I use soft and when do I use hard? And so that's why I did that little demonstration right there to show you that for an open, loopy shape or for something that you want to hold its shape where you're going to be pressing it over and taking it on and off, you're going to need a harder style wire than you would for something that you don't want to squish. Okay, so the next thing that people get confused about is, well, what wires come in different tempers? It's a very good question. If you're working with precious metal wire, like sterling silver, 14 karat gold, guess what? Those come in all the tempers you could ever want. They come in dead soft, half hard, and full hard, and you use them for different reasons. Jewelers actually use what's called a full hard wire, which is very, very difficult to bend. In this type of jewelry making, the more crafting of jewelry making, the artisan style jewelry making, we very rarely use a full hard wire. So I'm gonna leave that to the bench, and we're not gonna talk about full hard wire today. We're gonna talk about the medium temper or half hard wire and the soft or dead soft temper. Now, in the plated wires, you have a lot less opportunity to work with medium temper wires, because most plated wire has a tendency to be a soft or a dead soft temper, which can be kind of problematic, because if you want to make kind of an open and loopy design like this in an affordable or plated wire, how do you get it to hold its shape? Because you really can't hammer most plated wires to harden them up. So we're going to talk about some different wires that you can get that are medium temper in the plated wire, and then also some that are more often in the soft temper. So all these designs that I have right here are done with a medium temper wire that's a 20 gauge. And so if you look at them, they're kind of open like this, and they're holding their shape because I used a medium temper wire, not a soft temper wire. And this one, kind of the same thing. See that big loop right there on this particular piece? I'm going to hold it up like that. And the ear wire, those are all done with a medium temper plated wire. Pretty cool, right? And then all the wrapping over the top, that's done with a softer wire. So think about it like this: open and loopy, medium temper or half hard wire. Lots and lots and lots of wraps, softer wire, because you don't want to hurt your fingers. So let me show you a design that's done with soft wire, and a couple designs that are done with a medium temper or half hard wire, so you can get a few more ideas. And then I'll show you a couple different types of wire that you can use in the plated style. Now this is done with a bare copper. Bare copper is almost 100% of the time, actually I would say probably 100% of the time, a dead soft wire. Love to work with bare copper because of the ability to take it from a soft or a dead soft into a medium or a hard temper just by hammering it or work hardening it. So this one is done with that soft wire. You can see I did lots and lots of wraps here. Because I had to do so many wraps around the mandrel with this wire, which happens to be a 20 gauge or a medium size wire, I was able to use that softer wire. And then around here, and see how I did all those little wraps around the bead? That is a 24 gauge dead soft wire. And because I did so much wrapping, I needed a softer wire. So if you think about it, the smaller area you're getting into, the more wrapping you do, the softer you want that wire to be. This is a cool example of what I think you'd need like a softer wire for. This is a fine wire where I've done just some little wrapping and lots of wrapping at the top. I want each one of these to really tightly gather together, so that's why I used a softer wire. And matter of fact, this whole entire piece is done out of a dead soft plated wire. So you can do that. And then here's a combination of soft and hard wire. I'll turn you to the back of this particular earring here. All these loops that you see on this particular piece right here are done in a half hard wire because I needed them. As you can see, I'm pressing on them. Basically, I need those, actually I do, I need those to hold their shape. And if I did it in soft and somebody pressed on it, like maybe they pulled it out of their ear, they could ruin or destroy the design. And if you're selling your jewelry, you definitely don't want people to, you know, have that happen the very first time they wear your jewelry. But all the beads that are wrapped on there are done with a dead soft wire or a soft wire, all plated. And so you can see the tiny little wires coming around the edges. And the reason being is because I'm threading those wires through and I need to be able to pull them tight. And a half hard wire, it'll tend to bend and kink and spring back and just make it a lot harder for you. So that's why you would need a soft wire to wrap the beads on there. In front of me, I have just some different wires. These are a bare copper wire. Now, when I told you earlier that the precious metals like the sterling silver and the 14 karat gold, those types of wires come in different tempers always. You can order them in whatever temper you want to, dead soft, medium, or half hard, or full hard. Other wires don't come like that. For example, copper wire pretty much only comes in a dead soft or soft wire. But the cool thing about copper wire is it's an inexpensive wire that is not an alloy. It's copper all the way through, so you can hammer it. You can file it. You can do all kinds of different things to this wire. You can actually heat it and solder it and do all kinds of things with it that can change the temper of the wire. And so with copper, if you're working with it and you're doing lots of wrapping and you want to harden it up, you can actually hammer this wire and it'll make it harder. You can also hammer dead soft sterling wire, dead soft 14 karat gold wire to make it harder. And you can also heat all those wires to soften them up. If you think about it like this, wire is almost like it has little crystals on the inside. And so when it's soft, all those crystals are kind of loose and all far apart from each other. But when you hammer it or work it, you're pushing and compacting all those crystals closer together, making the wire harder. So yes, you can make your wire harder if you have copper, sterling silver, 14 karat gold, even brass to some extent. But then most of us work with plated wires because we're trying to be cost effective. So what do we do about a soft wire that's plated? Well, I'll tell you, for the most part, you can't hammer your soft wire. You can work harden it, and you can do that by running it through something like a little wire straightener. You can run it through there several times, and that will work harden it some. But for the most part, you need to try to find a medium temper or half hard wire that's already that temper, so you don't have to worry about making it harder yourself. This is a brand that I really like. It's something we carry here at Jewel School. It's a German style wire. So I've looked for this German style wire because it's already a medium temper. So this wire right here is 20 gauge, and you can just look right here, round wire, and it actually says right on the label, medium temper. If it doesn't say medium temper on the label, it's almost always a dead soft or soft wire is plated. It just kind of seems to always turn out to be that way. But it's really cool if when you're working with plated, if you'll look for this medium temper wire, then you can make some of those open, loopy, cool designs that you've seen in plated wire. For instance, this is done with the medium temper, 20 gauge wire, all those loops, and then I'm using a soft 24 gauge or 26 gauge to wrap all the beads in there. And both of them are plated. So you can find it, you just have to look for it. So I'm just gonna make this little pair of earrings that they're really, really simple earrings. One of my favorite pairs, but essential to the pair is to use a medium temper wire to make the ear wire. I almost always made these in a sterling silver half hard wire. I would never make them in copper because I don't like to hammer up near where it goes through my ear because I don't like to make it too wide. So I can just kind of show you with this wire. You can see 20 gauge, medium temper, but even when I pull it off the spool, it automatically starts springing outward. It's almost like you can tell that your wire is harder just by the springiness of it. So I'm holding onto it with my finger so my whole wire spool doesn't spring open. But as you look at this, you can kind of see as I press on it, it actually has a little bit of spring to it, which is really, really nice when you're making these open loopy shapes. So that little piece right there, I'm just going to cut this off using that flush cutter that I showed you earlier. And I'm going to hold on to it so it doesn't spring back and just bring this around to that little part. And anytime I'm using this kind of wire, I always make sure I do this. I always wrap it back around this end so it doesn't all come off of my spool. For instance, and then here's my 24 gauge that I'm going to use. And you can see this one is also open, but I don't have it wrapped around anything because the dead soft is just staying where it was. It's not as springy. Okay, so I'm just going to cut some of this wire. I'll take two approximately equally sized pieces of wire like so. Give it a little bend. You can wrap it around a mandrel if you want to, or you can use this as a little fun tool, kind of a little wire straightener. And interestingly, I'm using a wire straightener to curve the wire. But you can do that on both sides like so. And then you can either use a round nose plier, or because I have it here with me, I'm going to use this little stepped bail shaping plier, because the difference between this and a round nose plier, if you look at the jaw, see how this one's graduated and this one is not? And I want to do both pieces at the same time, so I'm going to use a non-graduated round nose. So just grab the ends here and roll those into two loops. And once again, because I use that medium temper wire, those loops are going to be really, really strong. And then I'm going to take a flat nose plier. You can also use your chain nose that we introduced earlier. Since I'm using both together, I'm going to stick with my flat. And you're just going to bend these into that earring wire shape, like so. Pretty easy, right? The cool thing about this is that ear wire, and you can see as I kind of pull on it, you see it springing back into shape. This is really important on an ear wire, folks. I can't even tell you how important it is on an ear wire that you use a medium temper wire, because people take them in and out of their ears over and over and over again. And I will let you know that the very first time they pull a dead soft ear wire out of their ear, they will ruin it. And then they'll squish it back together and try to fix it, and it'll never look the same again. So that is why it's so important to have a medium temper or half hard wire for your ear wire. But then let me get my 24 gauge wire. You see how I actually could take it and just kind of actually change the direction of the wire with my own 2 fingers? When it's a soft wire like that, you're able to manipulate the wire a lot more with a lot less force. And that's a really, really big deal, because I don't want to have to if I'm trying to wrap something really, really tightly, I don't want to have to try to get in there and use a lot of tools or pull too hard or hurt my fingers just trying to get it tight. The thing about plated wires, obviously, is you don't want to be pulling on it any more than you have to. So if I have to pull a lot, especially if I'm having to pull with a plier, you can take the plating off, you can ruin the tarnish resistant coating. Because if you look at these wires, like a lot of them say right on them, tarnish resistant. Well, sure, they're tarnish resistant, but if you scrape the tarnish resistant coating off with your pliers, it is no longer tarnish resistant. And also, if it's plated and you scrape the plating off with your pliers, then it's no longer plated. So it's very important to not have to do too much work to your plated wires. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a little head pin with this, and I'm going to wrap the top of a pearl. And I'll just show you the top of the pearl on this particular bead right here. You can see how I did like a really nice tight wrap on the top that almost looks like a bead cap. That's all done with wire. It's better and easier to do it with a softer wire. So that's why you need a softer wire for that piece. And I am going to take my little chain nose plier, and I'm going to make this piece of wire into a head pin. And it's super, super easy to do as long as you're not fighting the wire. So I'm just going to grab the end of it, and I'm going to bend it over and give it a squeeze like so. And so you can see I just have like a tiny little loop at the bottom that I squeezed closed. That's just basically something that's going to keep my bead or my pearl from falling off the end of the wire. And then I'll go to the other end, and I will string that pearl onto the head pin. So you're going to be able to see this is super easy for me to manipulate. For those of you who have dexterity problems, things like that, when you start kind of getting into using soft versus hard wire, you're going to see how much easier it is to do this type of stuff with a soft wire. Make it easy on yourself. Use the hard wire when you need it for the big open loopy designs, but if you're trying to wrap a bunch of tiny things, please use a soft wire. All right, so I'm just gonna bend this off to the side. You can see I can do that with my fingers, folks. Doesn't hurt at all because it's soft. And because I'm making a small little loop, I don't have to worry about it being a hard wire. So I'm just gonna grab this one time, roll it into a circle around my round nose plier, just like so. There's my little loop. And then I'm going to re-grasp that loop with my chain nose plier and start wrapping the wire. Now, because it's soft, I'm able to pull that around very, very easily. And then when I let go, you see how it stays in place? If I try that with a half hard wire, it's probably going to spring back a little bit and leave little spaces basically between each layer of wire. And what I want is a nice tight coil. So if I want a nice tight coil, I'm going soft. So I'm going to wrap this around, wrap this around, wrap this around. And I find that the larger my coil, the more important it is that I have a soft wire, because as you keep kind of going around larger areas, the wire springs back more and leaves more space. So I'm going to let go, and you can see that is a perfect coil that I made with the dead soft or soft wire. So I'm going to use my flush cutter, clip that off, and that guy is ready to add to this ear wire. Now you can see down here at the bottom, this is why it was important to use a medium temper or half hard wire here, because I want that loop to always stay a loop. So I'm just going to grab it. Let me use my chain nose pliers, since that's one of my big 3. You twist it open, grab your little bauble that you just made. And it could be any bauble. I've got a pair of turquoise ones done over there as well, but I just have a pearl because it's easy to show you guys with. And then you just add that cute little piece down on the bottom, like so. It makes a really just sweet, easy, big pair of earrings. Three things you're gonna remember. You're gonna be looking for a soft or a dead soft, a medium or half hard, or probably not, but maybe a hard wire. All right, so I'm going to go over all the tools that I used today because I ended up using quite a few more tools than I thought I would use, and also the different wires that I used today. Okay, so first of all, I was really planning only on using my round nose, my chain nose, and my flush cutter, which I call the trifecta. And I really could have done the whole project with them, but I just have other tools that I'd like to use, and isn't it always fun to learn about new ones? So I also used, in addition to those three, a wire straightener, and I actually used this to work harden the wire a little bit and also to shape it. I used my flat nose because since I was opening and closing two things and bending two things together, I like the consistency of the flat nose. And then I also used a 6-step bail shaping plier. And we talked about the reason I did that is because each little loop here or bail on here is not graduated. And since I did two at the same time, I wanted them to be the same size. Now, I also used some wire today. I used a 20 gauge medium temper or half hard wire, and I used a 24 gauge soft or dead soft plated wire to make my project. And then finally, I had a little pearl that I showed you guys. I was basically just making this very simple pair of earrings right here using a round pearl. So I hope you guys have learned something about the hardnesses or temper of your wire. If you'd like to pick up some supplies like the ones I worked with today, check out the links down below. What other questions do you guys have about wire? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell, and we'll see you again next time.